We've had a few people pull out and going to do it next year just because of staffing issues at work and COVID and illness and children being sick, all sorts of different things. But it is a fairly big group, so.
And just my understanding is they're going to use our prepared cases, or do some people have their own?
We're going to use your prepared cases to start with, and then they'll do this. Suzanne, I thought I would do an introduction. I thought we'd just give people a couple of minutes just in case a few are late. But for people who don't know you, I thought I'd do a little bit of an introduction.
Okay.
So it is a great pleasure for ASI's directors to introduce you to Dr. Suzanne Smith-Rowley. Some of you may know her from papers she's written, including one that we always quote about the sensory patterns in autism on every course we always teach. But also Suzanne Smith-Rowley is the author of, amongst others, this lovely book and the other diverse clinical reasoning book. And she worked with Jean Ayres. And so in the same way that all of us have benefited from and had the most awesome teaching from her over the years, and been had really precious time being taught by Suzanne and Zoe, I know all of you are going to have an awesome journey with her. Her way of working with clients, her way of mentoring therapists and growing and developing everybody at their own pace is a skill to be admired and respected. I just know you're going to have an awesome time. Suzanne, welcome, and thank you for all you do and your support of ASI Wise, and for all you've done for me, Ros and Mandy, over a long period of time. But we're delighted to be once again working with you. And I don't easily give up my 50th birthday or my 51st, but I'm doing it again because it is such a pleasure to be able to listen to you speak and teach. Even though I've done this course, I don't know how many times, I learn something every time. So thank you for being here, and thank you for the journey you're going to take everybody on. We really appreciate it.
So is your birthday today or during the course?
It was on the course again. It's always in November we run the course. What can I say?
Oh man, okay. Kath, we have to do something then.
Next year we're not running a course on my birthday.
Unless you're over here, Suzanne.
Cheers.
And then we'll celebrate.
Yeah, you're over here, we can celebrate in the evening properly.
Well, Kath, thanks so much for that really lovely introduction. You know, it always brings tears to my eyes in a way. You know, like Kath said, I have been at this for a long time. I've been practicing for 45 years, which is hard to believe. I'm still a practicing OT. My husband's an OT, my daughter's an OT. So we're living this work. It's not academic for me. And I've always had one, you know, full leg in practice, and, you know, a toe in research and the other leg in education. And, you know, I was really privileged to have been able to work with Dr. Ayres, and then I was really privileged to be the director of the education program for Sensory Integration International, the organization that she had started. Then that organization changed and closed. And then, you know, we started the USC WPS program, and I was the director for approximately 15 years. And that program changed and closed, and USC did another program, and Zoe, Mayu, and I created CLASI. And, you know, this is our swan song. But we feel that each time we have created a new program, we've learned from our experience, and, you know, we're trying to do our very best possible educational program for you guys to move people's clinical reasoning forward. And our tagline is children understood, you know, so just for the benefit of the children and the families around the world. I was telling Kath, I think we're in 31 countries in terms of our education program, and we have over 51 countries actively participating in contributions to the EASY data set. And just a little update on the EASY, you know, we're working the team, it's the royal we, because I mean, I definitely contributed, and, you know, I'm an author, Diane Parham and Zoe and I are authors of the EASY, but there's a team working on the analyses, and we're kind of there, ready to do some preliminary normative data. We're test driving it. Of course, there's all the platforms and everything. I mean, there's a lot of behind the scenes that has to line up as well, but that's all in motion. And I think we might be able to, you know, test drive the access to the normative, preliminary normative data. Of course, we'd hope to have many, many more data sets, but COVID really threw a wrench in the work. So, but anyway, I think by the end of this year, we will be able to share some of that with all of you. That's the plan, you know. And, where I'm from, we'd say, God willing, and the creek don't rise. So a nice little Midwestern saying. So, you know, barring any other unforeseen pandemic or, you know, illnesses or, you know, the things that happen in life, our little team, you know, thinks we will, you know, be able to share that, you know, by the end of this year. So we're moving rapidly. And so here we go. And we think that those standardized assessments, of course, are the pivotal elements for us to better understand what we're doing in intervention. That brings me to our intervention course, which is why we're here. I just wanted to go over some of the logistics of the module 6 coming up, making sure that you guys are kind of on board, that it's not so confusing on the first day. And, you know, we can do some of that in advance. So please, if you have questions today, put them in the chat. I'm happy to spend time on that. And between, you know, now and the course starting, you know, let us know. I know, you know, you're such a strong team with ASI WISE. And so, you know, use your mentors and your tutors well, and make sure you get your questions answered. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is pull up the schedule. All right, so what you're going to see is that there are lecture times and there's group times. And during the lecture times, I'm going to be going over the PowerPoints, and I will show you those in a second. And during the break times, we're going to be going over the learning activities, and you have a learning activities guide. And I strongly encourage you to print the learning activities guide. I believe it's 17 pages. So it's not a lot of paper, but you can write on it, you can go through it, and you have it right in your hands. The PowerPoints, that's a lot. And so, you know, if you can download those onto a tablet or your computer, you can follow along. But that learning activities guide, we've got activities, you know, I think you're going to want to have that in paper format. I'm going to start with the evidence because we're in a new era where AYRES Sensory Integration, specifically AYRES, identified as AYRES, has been identified as a evidence-based practice. So it's a new era for us, you know, so people saying, oh, well, you don't have enough evidence. Okay, well, look at what's going on. We've been busy, and we are identified by external bodies. So we're going to go through that, a little historical review. I'm going to review the patterns. If we have time today, I'm going to pull up the interpretation tool, and we can go through that a little bit today to make sure you're on the right track, going into goal setting, and then on into the creation of your intervention, you know, the actual, how we're actually creating the intervention from a data-driven model, from your assessment data to the intervention itself. Okay, so The first day we bounce around a little bit between lecture and learning activities, but it'll hopefully we get you on a really good path for you guys to complete your case studies for the presentations. On day 2, we'll go over the structure. I'll present my case. We were so lucky, just really lucky, because right before the pandemic hit, I had done a module 6 treatment course at our clinic at Centerpoint, and we had a lot of friends there, and they were able to film the whole thing. Now, this isn't usual, but we had all this film. And so during the pandemic, my daughter and I were able to get a lot of photos and get a lot of collect the treatment video footage, edit it, collect the assessment data, because I had tested all of those children, or someone at our practice did. So anyway, so we have those demo cases. And the other thing we had done for the purpose of the Fidelity rating, for module 5, is we had filmed a lot of kids, so that those kids they're real kids. All of those cases are really live kids in either my practice or PlaySense, Annie Balthazar's, Maury's practice, or my husband's practice, Sky Pediatrics. And we had that footage, so we were able to capture that. So for this virtual course, we have access to all of those materials, and we'll be presenting those. Now, on the second weekend we're together, that's when you guys will start to present your cases. So we're not going to do that on the first 2 days. We'll do that on the second 2 days. So you'll have time between the first time we meet and the second weekend to really hone in on your cases with your group, okay? Then when we come back on the day 3, I'm going to go through the process elements, so more moment-to-moment clinical reasoning when you're really with a client. And then the last day talking about how to, generalize the knowledge that you get into your consultative service, home, community, and others. So that's our schedule. We try to be quite logical in our methodology to move you guys like real practice. Because I know that not all of you have access to a clinic site, but we're going to show you the classic intervention. And then of course you modify it, with the resources that you have, of course. All right. So that's our schedule. Let me show you just a sample. So the PowerPoints all look like this. So you're going to see that we start with the evidence, and we'll just go down each one. You'll have it in a PDF document, so so you can follow along. Okay, so that's the PowerPoints. Then let me just show you the learning activities guide. Now, each of these is in your Dropbox folder. I mean, the link.
Suzanne, because we've not got the case studies, we've not opened the learning management system to everybody. We're getting the case studies, I believe, over the weekend or early on Monday. So I've let people know that they'll get access, and everything is in the learning management, in the learning space. So they'll get it on Monday or Tuesday next week.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so you'll get a link to all of these. And I know I'm the one holding it up. We just kind of did a little remodel on module 6. We're only doing it annually, so we want everything to kind of be all, we're hoping we catch all the typos and all the things that are inevitable, but yeah, you will have that as early next week as our team can possibly do it. I'll be done on Sunday. If I can get that to Katie on Sunday, she'll be able to get that on Monday, and they'll get it to Kath, and she'll get it to you as early as possible next week, but that's a promise. You will have a link. Now, what I want to tell you though, because this is virtual, I had the benefit of dropping some really cool resources for you, because we weren't printing out a big manual, because we're always careful about, we can't have too many pages, and because it's too big. And I know with that in mind, I know Kath at one point printed out all the references. She let us know it was over 200 pages of references, not 200 references, 200 pages of references, very specifically supporting AYRES SI intervention, not even all the aspects of sensory integration, not the theory, not the patterns. This is just an intervention. We have so much support for the work that we're doing. I think people don't know it. I was like, okay, don't tell me we don't have enough evidence. Here's another one, here's another. But anyway, 200 pages.
Dan, I think you're being very, you're underrating the resource that you're offering. It's not just 200 pages of lots of references. The references are all annotated and they're in sections. So if you're looking for evidence to support ASI intervention, it's in a section. If you're looking for evidence around autism, it's in a section. If you want evidence around ADHD, it's in a section. If you want evidence around feeding things, it's in a section. So it will become like a reference Bible, and there's an explanation of what the study is and then the reference of the study. So it is truly a reserve. It's like a present, really, actually. In fact, there are two presents, but I'm sure Suzanne will say about the other one, but that it is a present.
Yeah, and of course, I can't take credit for all of that. Heather Miller-Kohanek did many of those annotations with her team for the SI Global Network website. But I think that's a bit, lost in obscurity. So we got permission to share all of that. And she also categorized it by process element. Safety, sensory tools, and it's basic and applied science supporting each of those process elements, including, therapeutic alliance and collaboration and just right challenge. So it's a real wealth if you dive into that set of references and annotated references. Okay, so but that's just one piece, right? So in your learning activities guide, when you get the link, you're going to see learning activity 1. And I've included these pieces. Now the SI pattern charts, you've had it from module 4, but I think you may want to review it for your cases. So we've included it here, but I also went back to AYRES' original work and I found some really cool things that I think are interesting for you to see, like her original observations of sensory integration in play. This is also called her guide to report writing. So she went systematically down those observations. We're still using that today. The response to sensory input, that's what she used for her 1980 study. That's what we used for the EASY reactivity test. So anyway, you get to see some of these seminal pieces. All right, so there's supplemental resources, including links to some very relevant and current articles that support our theory and practice. Okay, so I would encourage you to look in, to just browse. Once you get the links, browse and just see what's in there. It's a lot. It's going to take you a long time. You could spend, a long time reading and studying all of those materials, but you have them. But during the group activities, I'll let you know what you need out of those supplemental resources, but we'll go down these, one by one. Okay, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. Okay. And then you'll see that it even has, some of the samples. You've got an equipment. There's a game, there's an equipment activity. There we go. Okay. So you'll be able to see that when you get the link next week. Okay, so that is those are all the materials, but the third piece, okay, because you've got your PowerPoints, you've got your learning activities, the third piece are the cases. All right, so you guys each group will be assigned a case. And let me just show you. And so what I did, I realize that this could also be somewhat confusing because you have a case guide, you have a case example, and you have a case template, and then you have your actual cases. So this is all around the cases. Well, the other thing that I did in terms of this case preparation guide, because we're using the guidebook, the Schaff and Mayu guidebook from 2015 as our treatment manual. And that treatment manual was using existing information about sensory integration, but then that was refined based on her randomized clinical trial. And so, you know, it's really the latest and greatest thing we have. And she uses the data-driven decision-making model, which, you know, we've emphasized that throughout all of the CLASI courses. But I wanted to make sure that I was on board because you know, over the years, I haven't always used the data-driven decision-making model. It's relatively new. It's developed, you know, at Thomas Jefferson. And, you know, so I wanted to make sure I was on board with our case analysis. And also I wanted to use real language, not research-based language, but real language we use in clinical practice, and that we have a crosswalk for that. So the guide kind of does that. Okay, so where are we in the data-driven decision-making model when we collect our background data or our occupational profile? Okay, where are we when we're doing our assessments? You know, where do we fit that in? Okay, so we have our strengths and challenges, and then we go into our assessment results. Okay, well, and what kind of assessment results are those? You know, and it gets broken down into proximal, which is, you know, kind of the more, you know, analysis of the particulars. And then the distal, which is those participation related, you know, family related, caregiver related concerns. All right, so then we analyze our data. But anyway, it walks through, this guide walks you through what we're asking you to do in the cases relative to the data-driven decision-making model. And as most of you probably know, that data-driven decision-making model is not specific to sensory integration. It's really, you can apply this to every piece of your work in occupational therapy, whether it's the sensory integration frame of reference or another frame of reference. Okay, this is, you know, it's a schematic for a data-driven occupational therapy practice. Okay, so we're inserting sensory integration in there. So that's your guide. And then what I did is said, okay, well, what we're asking you guys to do, can I really do it? You know, so I did the example. All right, so if you are wondering, you know, okay, wait, did I share this? Is this sharing? Maybe not. Okay, so on the example, if you're looking for like, okay, well, what does this look like? What do you want me to do? You can look at the case example and we filled it out basically for you. Okay, so we've, you know, here's our case example G, here's our strengths and challenges. You know, here's some of the data that I did, you know, with this child. Observations, here's some of the actual data. Okay, here's your interpretation tool, your impression. Okay, going all the way to the end. Okay. Now, you guys on your cases will go to this recommendation for service and the evidence. Okay, and the activities, want you to get all the way there, but then we get to, in collaboration, but you get to Fidelity, you don't need to do this, you don't have the treatment. I'm going to show you this after. And I know that seems, you know, maybe I should show you before, but we don't want to do that. We want, because what's really been so fun is to see your presentation of what you think should happen in the treatment session, and then you see the treatment session and it looks like you already knew. because it was guided by the assessment data, and sure enough, that's what's going on in the treatment session. So you don't need to do this slide or the reevaluation. You don't have that. But in real life you would, you know, in real life, your real cases, you would, you know, ask yourself, am I really using an AYRES SI approach? This is what we have evidence for. Maybe you have a modification for that's, or you're doing it in combination with other frames of reference. There's not a problem with that, but you need to know, okay, I don't have any equipment. Okay, well then that's a deviation from what we have evidence for. Okay, I'm still doing a good job. I'm still doing occupational therapy and I'm doing my best. But if you want me to use this evidence-based practice, I need equipment and I need a space to work. All right, and then the third piece is the template. Okay, so this is just blank, right? So this is the schematic. Template. If I have too many things open, it won't show me. So let me just close a couple of these things. Okay, template. Okay, sorry, I'm going to have to close a couple more of those PowerPoints because it's not showing up. Okay.
Dan, do you want one of the easy the interpretation tool templates from the easy?
I have that. I have that. This will show up now. I just closed the other one. Okay. So here we are. So here's the template. Now, so you have this, you know, just to let you know, you have the guide, which is the walkthrough on the data-driven decision-making model. You have the example, which is our attempt to you know, model a case for you. And then the template is just blank. So what we would encourage you to do is to use this structure to analyze all of your individual cases. Okay, does it have to be so in depth? Maybe not. Does there have to be duplicates? You're duplicating information in the tables that you have in the individual slides. That's not necessary, but we wanted you to see how it fits, how the data fits with each other, the relationships between the data. Okay, but this is for you to use on your own cases. All right. And then last but not least is the assigned cases. And I'll just pull up one example. So all right, so each group will get, I'm not exactly sure how Kath is going to distribute it, but group 1 will get case 1. Group 2 will get case 2. 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6. Okay, so we'll have 6 groups. Each of you will have one case to analyze together as a group that you will present as a group. Okay, so this is assigned case 1, just to show you the treating therapist is Corey. The boy's name is Kyle. I know it's, so we have K. Okay, K for the child. Corey is the OT. Okay, and we will give you all of the upfront information, all of the assessment data, right? So the presenting concerns, the occupational profile, the strengths, you know, the assessment data. You have the SIPT, you'll have the EASY, both, SPM, and then you take it from there. All right, so then your group will input all of the data onto the interpretation tool. And then again, we'll walk you through step by step on that first day. But it's nice if you take a stab at it, you know, before we get there. Okay, thank you, Kat. Yeah, that's how you will get these. All right. And then but it's the same, it's same, right? So these categories are the same no matter which of those. We made them, hopefully they're 100% consistent with each other. There's no deviations from the structure. Okay. All right. So questions. How are you doing? What do you think? You think you'll get through it? Okay, so 3 main streams of information: the PowerPoints, the learning activities, and the cases. That's it. That's it.
We will reiterate what people need to print off in the Telegram group to everybody so that you will all be aware of what you need to print. The main thing you need to print is the learning activities. It's like a workbook. So you need that workbook to work from. And making sure you've got that printed off by the 5th of November is really important. You do need a paper copy of that. So you scribble on it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay. So any other, because if you don't have any questions, but you know, when you get your link and it seems confusing, just let us know. Okay.
I was just going to ask if hello, I'm Tom. I just wanted to ask if we needed to be kind of planning any time between part 1 and part 2, you know, whether to meet with our group or whether we needed to be sort of blocking any time in our diaries or anything at this stage.
Yes. And Kath, I'll let you answer that because I know you've got time, tutor time that's allocated as well, right?
So I think groups do usually get together, Tom, but normally what happens is between the group, because you're in small groups with each other, with a tutor, normally that group time, you'll agree amongst yourselves what a time that suits everybody. So on the 5th and 6th, you'll probably find a time one evening or one weekend slot or early on a Saturday morning, whatever. Different groups do different things. Sometimes people go off and work on things separately and bring them together. Other times groups want to work together and do it collaboratively. So I think it will be mix and match depending on what the groups want to do. The different groups. We will send you your group allocation at the point that the case studies come out, so you'll know which group you're in, and then you can even start talking to each other about making sure you've got an hour or two in between where you can sort that out. You will also get a Telegram group that is just your group. So not only do you have the main M6 Telegram group, we do M6 group 1, M6 group 2, and you'll be allocated a tutor who's not me, Rosamandi. We joined Suzanne as the instructors. So for those of you doing the Ulster route, that link is there, but the tutors you get are people who are learning skills to be lecturers and instructors in the future. And so they're there and they support you and they take you through the journey. When you start working on your own cases and you're preparing to present them in the tutor group after M6 is finished, the same as you did for module 2, 3, and 4, when you brought your case studies back and presented them in the tutor groups, you will be supported in your small group by the tutor, but you'll present to the big group. So if you choose, because you are quite a big group, if you choose, all of you will be able to see the presentations of the entire group, but you'll do the preparation in the smaller groups. So you'll have support of your small peer group. So when you present, you'll be ready to go. And it potentially means if you want to stay the course, you're going to see 20 odd case studies presented after the course, in addition to all the work that happens on the course. For those of you that do the Ulster University course, the good news is your presentations get marked. And 40% of your mark. So Ros, myself and Mandy are your markers for that. And so we will be marking that presentation. The counts of 40% of the mark then goes on with the other pieces that you submit, your narrative about your journey or the client journey, because there's a pass-fail narrative piece. And there's a second piece for a third piece, which is you write an essay that is related to a measurement of outcomes and choice of outcome measurement linked directly to your presentation case studies. You take your case study and then you explore outcome measurement and you present that outcome measurement and explore what you've done as your Ulster University submission for your 30 master's credits. So I know we've got people here doing the masters, and so that's the additional piece that you do. But everybody does the case study. It's the Ulster people that get marked in the case study. Everybody else gets their Fidelity rated, but you don't get a mark. But you do all do Fidelity rating, and we do the Fidelity rating as a group, so that you comment on the Fidelity, and that's part of the learning process. So I hope that's really clear for everybody. So the cases you're going to initially be working on are the cases you'll be assigned from Suzanne's team, and every single cohort we've had, it has loved the experience, because you get to know a person on paper, you're just using their data, and so you learn the power of the data. Because I promise you, every single group has this experience. What they develop is then what they watch the treating therapist has actually delivered, because you get to see what the treating therapist for that child eventually delivered. And it's just such an awesome opportunity to take data and think about, we're all using the same data, we're all applying the same principles, and you're coming up with very similar activities. And that's a huge learning opportunity for people. And so you get to see 6 case studies of experienced therapists treating clients with narrative from Suzanne over talking it. So you are in for an exciting time.
Yeah, we're only showing you treatments that get a 96 to 100 Fidelity rating. I mean, we're not showing you anything that isn't really good sensory integration treatment. That was a decision we made too. Should we show them as bad treatment? Like, no, let's just not do that. Just going to show you a whole bunch of really good treatment. They're all different, but all really, really good clinicians. So that's a treat. It's really a treat for me too, to see that. And I have to say that, because I've worked with Roz and Mandy and Kath for so many years, you guys are in such good hands. These guys provide more support than almost anybody in the world. That's true. They're very committed to you as learners. And so, I think access that expertise and with that additional support, I think your growth and development is just huge, because we know with learning patterns that you can't just do something once or twice, but after you do it 10 times, if you have that many cases, it starts to stick, and you have ownership of the material. So you guys, I'm sure will feel the benefit of that. Okay. So we have a few minutes left. What I would like to do is just to go over the interpretation tool, just for, just to review, to make sure, because this is something that we always have to do at the beginning of module 6. And I think the more familiar and comfortable you are with this, the faster we can go at the beginning of the course. Okay, so the question is, where are we required to be up to with the other modules in order to engage in M6? Well, everybody goes at their own pace. So the perfect scenario is that you would have completed all the way through M5. That's the perfect scenario. That's not always possible. Life gets in the way, and we're not going to block anybody from doing module 6 if you haven't completed one or more modules. But the less you've already completed, the more at a disadvantage. So I would say you at least want to be done with 2, 3, and 4 if you can, because then that's your hypothesis. The M5 gives a lot of nuts and bolts, how to distinguish SI from other types of interventions, the Fidelity. We'll go through some of that M6, so you could do that afterwards. The theory, I think, to be honest, I think you could take the theory at the beginning of the course and then go back and redo the theory, because you know, it's impossible to digest all of this information in one go. So
yeah, sorry, that was me. I think quite a few people are maybe wondering that as well. I'm definitely one of those people that life got in the way. But I'll definitely be done module 4. I've got quite a bit of time. Life's calmed down an awful lot. So I was wondering, should I try and push through and see what I can get done? And that tells me, yes, just do what you can. So I'll keep going. I'll just keep putting my time into it.
Keep going. You know what, the CLASI, I mean, we're really committed to you guys too. So those learning modules are available to you for, I don't know how long. I don't know how long we'll be able to do this. We've tried to extend it with our platform for as long as possible, like not taking people off the platform, but I think we've committed to like a year. So you know, I think if you rush through it, okay, but you could always go back. I mean, I don't encourage you to rush through it, but you've got access for a while. We're not kicking you off the platform anytime soon. And so I think you do what you can, go back and review. And I think that just builds your learning.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Lisa, and something that might be useful to do is next Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock, there is a case study presentation for the module 3 group, if you're available. And sitting in watching that module 3 as a refresher, and I having looked at the module 3 preparation for that case study, it's a very comprehensive one. It's nice, clean data. I think it's a lovely case study to watch. It'll be a lovely case study to listen to, knowing the therapist who's presenting it as well. So I think that will be a really good kind of refresher opportunity for you as well, if that's of use to you, just to kind of get you back feeling like and build your confidence, really.
Yeah,
I think that's what I was going to say, if there's any opportunity for that, because I did 2 and 3 with you guys and other guys, and then obviously, but I haven't finished 5, so I'm the same as the other lady was just saying, and I just kind of probably being realistic with the way life has thrown a few curveballs at us this last few weeks, that I probably won't finish 5 before 6, but I kind of thought maybe what, you know, from what you've said, so that would be lovely to just watch something. I guess it's just you feel sort of out of it a little bit, having done it a while ago, so that would be awesome.
We will make sure the link for the module 3 next Tuesday at 7 o'clock is shared with all of you. And it just gives you an opportunity to get your eye and think again about the data. It is a SIP one, it's not an easy one. It is with SIP data. So for those of you who are familiar with the SIP, you're going to see something that's very known and familiar. For those who are new to the easy, it'll make sense because of what you've done in the easy. So, you know, it would be a good case study we were supposed to do it actually on Tuesday, but I was so poorly after teaching for 2 days, I just said I can't teach anymore and I had to stop. So it was being postponed a week. So it's actually ideal timing for all of you. So, yeah.
There's actually one on the Thursday of the week after as well by somebody who's in this group.
Yeah.
Right.
If people would like to join that one.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, 100% if you take module 6 and then go back to M5, the Fidelity ratings will be a slam dunk. It will be so obvious to you what's SI and what's not.
That's really helpful, because I think, yeah, okay, that's really useful.
Yeah. You know, it'll be, honestly, it'll be easier for you to do M5 after M6, but of course,
yeah,
you know,
ideal. Okay.
Yeah, you know, life isn't perfect. We know it. The COVID pandemic has really changed everything, right? Changed our thinking. Life is short and we do our best. And yeah.
Would it be better to focus on practicing and doing, I've got a couple of cases now, would it be better to spend my time doing that rather than the online learning for M5 before M6?
I would say yes, not to rush through M5. Yeah, then if you
experience.
yeah, because really with M6, we're really hoping that you have all of the information you need to prepare your own cases. And so if you have your cases in mind and you can do them in parallel with the assigned cases, I think that's going to be a very good use of your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we still have a few minutes. So let me just pull up the interpretation tool, because I know there's been a lot of questions, and I just give you a little background. I may repeat some of this in M6, but this is a really important document. Okay, so now, and there's been a lot of questions and misunderstandings, but let me just I'm going to go way back to how this even started, which was I had a mentor, Ginny Scardina. She was amazing, extraordinary. And with the students, we'd go test children, and we'd come in and she'd say, okay, what assessments have you done? Okay, you did, and we were usually doing the SIBT and clinical observations, and we did our interviews, and then she'd say, get out a piece of paper and tell me everything you know about the visual system. And then, okay, so we'd write down, the visual tests and the visual motor and any handwriting. Okay, get out another piece of paper, tell me everything you know about the vestibular system. Get another one, proprioception, get another one, tactile, get another one, praxis. Okay. And then you had stuff. She goes, well, the child has tremors. Where are you going to put that? Like, well, I don't know. It doesn't go here. That's right. It doesn't go here. That's not a sensory integration problem. You're right. Child has seizures. Where are you going to put that? I don't know. It doesn't go here. That's right. That's not a sensory integration problem. Okay. And then, okay, so my traumatic experience was I did the Schilder's arm extension, where you've got this and you turn the head. And she goes, okay, where are you going to put that? And I did not know. I didn't know where to put it. I was like, I don't know. Maybe under proprioception. Well, why do you say proprioception? I was like, I don't know. Like, maybe vestibular. Well, why vestibular? I don't know. I froze, and okay, now I know, and I would never forget Schilder's, right? But she was like, where are you going to put this on your chart? Okay, or, on your page. And it's like, okay, well, I think why is proprioception? Well, because you have to have proximal joint stability. That's correct. Put that down on proprioception. Why did you think it was vestibular? Because you turn the head. Well, that's correct. Put that down on your page on your vestibular. And so, okay, so when Dr. Ayres gave us the research findings on the SIBT, I went back to Ginny and I said, I can't make sense of all this data. So we started lining it up on these pages and said, well, what do you know about the vestibular? What do you know? Same sort of clinical reasoning. And so we came up with this format. Now I know people have seen this in many, many different formats, but what we were able to do with the data is we were able to look at those factor analyses values, okay, the factor loadings, which are actually correlations. And we were able to say, okay, well, these tests correlate the most highly with the construct, for example, of praxis. And these tests correlate the most highly with that factor of bilateral integration. Okay, so we put those in each of these blocks. Okay, now I have a structure to fill in the data. I'm not just like taking test by test, but I have a format for putting in my data according to the constructs. Now, as I mentioned, we've had a lot of iterations of this, but this iteration, and it continues to change because now we're going to have easy data, and we've included some of the easy scores, and now we have the SPM2. So, life doesn't hold still. So we continually update. But this is an evidence-based clinical reasoning tool. It's based on evidence. Okay, so So what all do you know about the vestibular system? Put that down. Now we've given you some guides based on research, so, okay, the nystagmus test, vestibular nystagmus, that's really important. Okay, let's put that. Okay. Postural control, we know a lot about that. There's other tests. There's clinical observations. There's the Brudzinski-Zaretsky test of motor proficiency. You guys maybe use that screening tool. Oh, it's slipping my mind, but it's that really common tool that you might use to look at motor function. All right, so you may have additional data. Now you don't have factor analyses on all of those other tests. Okay, but that's okay. You know where you have the correlational data amongst the SI related tests. And then there's been some congruent validity studies between, say, the BOT and the SIPT, or between the sensory profile and the SPM. Those studies exist. Okay, and then remember I said, tremors and seizures, I see them in this trial, but it doesn't go there. So we have non-SI data, so we have our little category of stuff that you see during your assessment that we don't know where to put it. Okay, those other things, because you're going to see other things. It's not all SI, 100%, it's not all SI. Okay, but the tests are listed in the order of strength of the correlation to the construct, right? So postural praxis or imitation of postures was the strongest. Praxis positions is what we're calling it in the EASY. So that was the strongest test. And Dr. Ayres in the SIP manual said, if you have a poor postural praxis and you have a low graphesthesia test, you've got somatodyspraxia. And the reason for that is because she saw it over and over and over, and in every single analysis, when you saw those two scores line up together, the child had dyspraxia. And it was in many, many studies. It was a very strong correlation. Okay. Now, she also saw in bilateral integration that the bilateral coordination test showed up the strongest in terms of that bilateral, but she also saw other tests. So all of those other tests that have right, left, sequencing praxis, you're doing right, left, oral praxis, you're doing manipulation of the tongue, right, left, up, down. So when you had those lateralized functions, those showed up in the bilateral integration construct. So that was lateralized sensory as well as motor affecting those tests. Okay, so that, and those are hard to distinguish from praxis, right? Sometimes you get confused. Is it dyspraxia or is it bilateral integration and laterality? And you have to dig further, right? Because in those factor loadings, those correlations are separated into what's in common. They call it commonality or specificity, right? So what's in common? So let's say postural praxis, sequencing praxis, and oral praxis shared a factor loading of 0.54, 0.56, 0.46. Okay, so those are moderate to high correlations. All right, but the remaining factor, is specificity. So each of those tests also have an element that's telling you something unique. All right, so what you're really doing is you're looking for the commonality in the data. You're trying to collapse your data into the commonality in the constructs. So the way your data lines up is going to influence your idea about the pattern, right? So as I mentioned, just if we get back to that graphesthesia and postural praxis, if we saw poor tactile perception and poor imitation, that's somatodyspraxia. If we see vestibular issues, low nystagmus and poor laterality, that looks like a vestibular bilateral integration problem. Okay, so you're looking at the way the data lines up to show you the pattern between the constructs. This is unique, I think, in sensory integration. And I think it's one of the most fabulous parts of analyzing your data is your ability to see the various patterns that are so highly predictive of difficulties in participation. The other important piece is that some of the things are easier to treat than others. If you end up with everything in this gray box and the sensory stuff is okay, sensory integration isn't the right tool. Maybe the child has a neuromotor deficit. It's not a sensory deficit. And so sensory integration is not the right thing. But if you have extreme reactivity issues, that's a pattern. You're going to see that by observation, by the sensory processing measure usually. We have the easy reactivity test now that, you know, it's a new test. So all the new tests, it's a little problematic. We're still working on that. But that's a pattern. Okay, that's a pattern. And then it's predictive of certain kinds of dysregulation, issues with attention and emotion regulation, and tolerating a lot of pieces of your activities of daily living. All right, so that's a very quick discussion on yeah, so that's a quick overview. Any questions about this tool? I really recommend that before you come to M6 to plot your data on an interpretation tool. We've provided it to you in several places. And my suggestion is color code. Okay, so I don't know if you can see. Okay, green and red. So I would do the low scores below -1 in red, the good scores in green or blue. You don't have to use red and green, but then you're going to have a visual map of the strengths and weaknesses. Okay. All right. Well, I know some of you are saying you have to go. I know we've reached the end of our time. So I don't know if there's anything. We'll let you wonderful people go and live your real lives. Roz, Mandy, Kath, Donna, anything?
No, I'm here, and if people have got questions, any questions about the Ulster piece, I can stay behind. I know we've got the opportunity for some of you to sit in and watch the M3 if that's going to be useful. And again, you'll see people highlighting because every person doing our M3 follows the format, Suzanne. So they might not do all the slides, but they'll use a selection of the slides. So our M3 tutor group presentations follow the format as well. So that'll just reinforce that for everybody and the interpretation tool. Of course, some of you will be using maybe the adapted adult interpretation tool, which we've got the easy on, but we've also added the ASH onto it.
Nice. Okay.
So if there are any questions, you can post them in Telegram. You know how to get a hold of us via Telegram. Most of you, any more questions, use the Telegram group. That's the first port of call. If you're stuck, then we can escalate it. But normally we can deal with that in-house, and then we'll send you everything. As soon as we have got it into the learning space system, we'll let you know, open it up to you, and we'll make really sure that you know which one needs printing. I think actually it says in the learning space, it says print this. It actually has the name and the title of the resource, and it says print this. And if you just remember, print the thing that says print this, then you'll be absolutely okay.
Can I just ask a quick question? I had it down to start for 1:30, but I think on the layout of the day it said 2 p.m.
It's 1:30 to start with a tech check to make sure everybody's on, all the Zooms are working, to help anybody who can't get in, just to make sure that we're all here ready to go when Suzanne arrives. Time for coffee and a chat and a hello and a... Yeah. Okie dokie.
All righty.
All right.
Well, thank you guys for joining and getting ready for the course. I'm looking forward to it. I think we'll have a great time together, and let me know if you need anything beforehand, okay?
Excellent.
Good to see everybody.
Thank you very much.
Okay, take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.